how are we going to develop this energy system? How are we going to make ourselves more aerobically efficient? How are we going to convert those mixed muscles into real lean, mean, red mitochondrial, dense, efficient, go for a long time muscles? And that's something we're going to get into later, but zone 2, right, Matt?
Yeah, I think this graph's really good because it kind of puts the energy systems into perspective with the zones that we're using. I think one of the things, though, that this graph doesn't tell us is some of the damage that some of these higher end energy systems, when we're using them, the damage that they're doing to our muscles because they are so hard.
Yeah, you're right. Like zone 2 here, the reason we put it in, it just really shows you how it primarily targets fat and oxygen for aerobic development and improved performance. But, as a lot of people know, Matt, athletes love to train in the quote unquote gray zone. But I thought, we should really break down the gray zone. And like you said, the impact of training slightly above zone 2 or above that comfortable intensity, what that can do in relation to your aerobic development.
Yeah, the thing about zone 2 and zone 1, you can pretty much do it forever.
That's right. And it doesn't feel super hard either, does it?
Yeah, when we get athletes training in zone 1, zone 2, they almost feel like they're not doing enough. But over time, they start to realize the benefits because this is actually a super hard system to develop. It takes years to develop the system to your peak. And that means lots and lots of easy training.
That's right. And when you come from, potentially having no guidance in your training, you haven't measured the intensity, and especially if you're coming from a team sport, it's kind of that no pain, no gain adage where you push until you feel like you're training. And then to train in zone 1 or 2 as someone who doesn't have a really well-developed aerobic system, it feels a bit too easy. But then someone who has a super developed aerobic system, we're talking about professional Ironman endurance athletes, they can run and ride and swim really fast. And part of the reason we don't want to be training a bit too hard all the time is that it impacts the cellular environment, which impacts, again, the mitochondrial development. And we've gone over how important that is in terms of improving your efficiency and your aerobic development and your energy production for muscular contractions. So although it may feel like you're doing a lot more work, you're probably doing a lot more harm than good. That's one of the reasons that it's called the gray zone.
This is one of those classic group ride issues where everyone's going out for an easy ride or an easy run. And easy is a lot different for everyone on that ride. So you might have the pros that are definitely going easy and they're not going above their limit. And then people like us, we might be pushing a little hard. And then we find ourselves in the gray zone. So the pros finish the ride feeling super fresh, definitely ready to train the next day. Whereas we're a little bit more tired because we spent a lot of time in this gray zone doing a little bit more damage. So it wasn't easy for us.
Yeah, and swimming is one of the worst for that. Anyone who out there who's trained as a swimmer or a triathlete, you have lanes. There's only 8 lanes in a pool, and often the swim coach only has 3 of them booked. And you kind of have slow, medium, or fast. And within those lanes, there's one person swinging on the back and there's one person cruising at the front. And that really epitomizes the gray zone training or impacts of training outside of your intensity level while someone else is right in theirs. So that's why outputs aren't always the best way to monitor your training intensity. Dr. Matt and I started the Performance Advantage podcast to help runners, riders, and outdoor competitors integrate sports science more effectively into their training and racing.
So over the last few years, Dr. Will and I have covered topics like the lactate threshold, training zones, power meters, and fatigue. Now we're condensing these popular and misunderstood topics into practical courses.
Our courses take our same podcasting style approach to learning and education, and we break it down into bite-sized chunks that you can digest either all at once or as practical little resources to use as and when you need them.
So the biggest difference between our course and any other course you might have taken is that we don't lecture you. It's a conversation between Will and I, and we're explaining complex sports science principles in an easy to understand manner.
Yeah, we also integrate like how we use them on the regular. Our courses come with a certificate of completion, as well as a lot of takeaway resources such as training plans, scientific articles, and quizzes that you can do to check your progress along the way.
Our sports science courses are available now. Register on performanceadvantagepodcast.com for immediate access.